The series proceeds where everyone was taken aback by hearing grandfather from his mouth, and his grandfather was throwing cannons on their ship. In the past, Luffy was young when his grandfather wanted to turn him into Marine, but his sole interest was pirates. But his grandfather hated pirates, so he took him away for training. When he returned to the situation, he noticed cannons were destroying their ship. Nami asked him to run away, but Luffy preferred to face Marine, and that's why he ordered Usopp to fire a cannon as a counterattack. But they were not used to it, so they dropped the cannon instead of firing. On the other hand, Garp asked them to surrender because he wanted to capture them alive. Luffy showed obstinacy and declined to obey him. As a result, Garp fired, but Luffy increased his stomach size and bounced back the cannon. Through this, the opposite team could not strike them for a while, and they availed this opportunity to run away. Also, Garp had gotten mad and started laughing at his failure. However, they had escaped, and Nami asked everyone to communicate with Luffy. Luffy was depressed after this incident, and Roronoa Zoro got closer to him and inquired if he wanted to talk about that incident. Luffy denied it, and he returned. At the same time, Luffy smelled meat and soya sauce and realized someone was cooking there. With the help of Luffy's nose, they have arrived at Barati. Brady was a restaurant where Zeph was in charge, and here, it was complicated to reserve the table. Luffy tried to convince through his famous dialogue he would become the king of pirates, so they should treat him properly, but he ignored him, and Nami reserved the table by giving him a handsome amount. Apart from this, Sanji cooked different dishes in the kitchen, but he was criticized for this dish and banished from the kitchen. After throwing, he became a waiter and taught guests lessons who were creating mess in the restaurant. Luffy was impressed with his fighting skills and ordered everything. Before leaving, he remembered flirting with Nami. On Garp's ship, many things had been destroyed, and it required 2 days to fix this problem. Kobe here advised to call the reinforcement, but Garp rejected it because he knew how to deal with him. He moved to his office and called Mihawk, the best swordsman. None could beat him. He was busy knocking down people this time with his extraordinary swordsmanship skill. Even when the captain tried to throw a cannon at him with his gun, he dodged and killed him with a swing of a sword. After this, he paid attention to Garp, who gave him a mission to bring Luffy here without harm. Kobe was listening to their conversation, hiding behind the wall. He was confused about how Miran took help from a pirate whom they wanted to demolish. In the hotel, Luffy enjoyed mouth-watering food, and when Sajin brought the bill, he signed and asked to keep it as his loan. But Zeph arrived angrily, without paying attention to his babbling about the king of pirates. He was asked to wash the pots to pay the bill. Also, Nami was worried about Miran because she didn't want to lose her freedom. To calm her mind, she ordered a drink and inquired about the way to Konomi Island. One mysterious man arrived, offered to leave her at Konomi Island, and asked her to prepare for dawn. At night, Kobe asked Morgan about Mihawk. Mihawk was the warlord of the sea who had made contact with Moraine. They would do what they asked, and Moran protected them in exchange. This contract was made because war could happen if contract didn't happen. Moreover, Luffy met with Sanji, who was seated and was keeping the pots. Luffy praised the unique dish which he had eaten. While doing this, he inquired about his dream. He wanted to go to All Blue, where special spices could be found, and he could become the world's best chef by using them. Listening to this, Luffy offered to join him, but he refused because he wanted to stay with this older man. Just then, a hungry pirate arrived, and Sajin moved to help him out. He prepared the yummy food for him, despite knowing he was asked not to cook. But he couldn't let this hungry man die. This man ate the food with relish and explained to Luffy that his captain also moved to grab one piece. But the consequences were disastrous because they lost 50 ships and 5,000 men on this journey. Only he had survived and advised him to throw this idea away if he wanted to live. Despite this, Luffy insisted on going there. In the hotel, Nami and Roronoa tried to get to know each other by drinking wine. Nima revealed she belonged to Orange Land and was very poor. Also, Roronoa disclosed that he had only one friend, Kuina. Apart from this, Kobe accused Garp of shaking hands with pirates, which was illegal. But Garp makes him understand that sometimes Moraine needs to decide against their wish to save the world's peace. Aside from this, Usopp was narrating the wrong tale to everyone about his adventure. Here, he met with Mihawk, who wanted to meet with his captain. So Usopp took him to his crew, where he inquired about Luffy. Roronoa recognized him at first glance and invited him for the duel. Nami declined him to do so, but Roronoa was not listening to her, and decided to make it a fight at dawn. Mihawk also accepted the challenge and planned to kill him first. Luffy was washing the pots when Zeph arrived, and he told about the good nature of Sanji. Also, Usopp came and needed his help to save Roronoa from suicide. When they reached the ship, Roronoa Zoro was not ready to listen to anyone. Nami knew he was committing suicide because he was far superior to him in swordsmanship. Luffy was also in favor of Nami, but soon he realized becoming the best swordsman in the world was his dream, and he couldn't interrupt his plan. So, he has decided to support him. In a pissed mood, she started packing up things, and Roronoa was awake because his fight would be started. At dawn, Nami couldn't go by, leaving her friend in trouble. They reached the designated spot where Mihawk and Roronoa were about to fight. Watching Roronoa, he takes out his mini-sword because he doesn't want to kill him with his honorable sword, which he didn't deserve. When the fight started, he stopped his attack with his mini-sword and compelled him to step back. Every time he attacked, he faced failure. He injured his chest with lightning speed and broke his sword with immense power. Still, Roronoa continued his fight because stepping back from the war was his death. In honor of his bravery, he struck him with his honorable sword and walked away, saying he needed to be more vital to defeating him. In the miserable condition, he swore to never lose onward. They took him into their ship and worried about him. Right now, they needed a doctor to save their friend. Luffy went to Sanji and inquired about the doctor. Sanji was ready to help him. Also, Zeph moved to help Roronoa Zoro by bringing knives and giant fish. Arriving at the ship, Zeph starts drinking and chopping the fish, through which he can bandage him. By slicing the fish, he put them on his wounds and hoped to heal them, but his condition was critical, and he could die. Now, Mihawk at Garp's ship to tell him he had his own rules, and none could rule him. So he didn't bring his grandson because he knew his grandchild could find out the One Piece. He moved by saying this, but Garp had ruined the room in anger, and Kobe was watching all this. In the merry-going, Luffy's hunger was gone. He was only thinking about Roronoa Zoro and cleaning his sword. Sanji was preparing food and narrated him tale about Zeph, who was used to pirates. When he was young, he attacked their ship and poured oregano on his dish. Sanji refused to sprinkle oregano and spit out about all blue. Just then, a wave of sea arrived and crushed everything. When Sanji opened his eyes, Zeph and he were on a huge stone. Zeph gave him food and asked him to leave until the ship arrived. Sanji passed his days in loneliness and ate tiny food when needed most. After 70 days, everything had finished, and he was dying from hunger. So he thought about snatching the food from him. Also, he planned to kill him if he refused to give food. When Sanji reached there, he looked like he had eaten his foot to survive and had given all the food to him. He was shocked to see his kindled nature because he preferred to die and wanted to save him. He wanted to tell him that being a captain wasn't easy. Sometimes he had to sacrifice himself for his crew. He moved to Roronoa's room, where Nami accused him of not restraining him from fighting with Mihawk. Luffy was guilty, but couldn't hinder his friend's dream. On the Grap's ship, Kobe tries to convince him to let Luffy live as he wants to become pirate. If he didn't, he could die. Listening to his arguments, he looked like he had perceived Kobe's point, but couldn't. At the same time, Arlong had arrived in the barracks by bringing his mates. He was scaring everyone and not letting anyone go from here. Zeph arrived and asked him to enjoy the food without money. He agreed and asked to bring Luffy at any cost. If he didn't, he decided to kill everyone one by one. Also, Nami told them they needed to escape from here because Arlong had arrived. Listening to this, Zeph and other people were in trouble. Sanji moved to save him. Luffy wanted to accompany him because he couldn't let anyone die. Nami tried to stop him, but Luffy couldn't be responsible for many deaths. He asked Nami to take care of Roronoa Zoro. They headed to the hotel where Arlong humiliated humans because they were inferior. He held one of them with the collar, and when he was about to proceed to kill, Luffy arrived. Arlong made fun of Luffy because he was still a kid. Just then, Luffy needed clarification about how he had known about their location. Arlong removes Buggy from the sack, and Buggy rejoins his ear that was in his hat. Buggy had listened everything that they were talking about. Buggy was talking so much then, they again put his head in the sack, and a fight started between Luffy and Arlong. Luffy's attack was proving nothing because Arlong was dodging them. Further, Sanji tried to fight, but they proved futile, and Luffy was thrown out of the hotel. Luffy was made of rubber, so he didn't hurt, and wanted to attack him repeatedly through his mighty punch. But still, Arlong was strong. Arlong held Luffy in his hand and planned to kill him, but Nami arrived at the right time and asked him she had done her job. Now, they should move from here. Listening to this, Luffy was shocked, but Nami pretended to be a comrade of Arlong and moved. Also, he asked him to throw Luffy into the sea because there was no use in killing him. Agreeing with his opinion, he threw him into the water, and Luffy was drowning in the water when Sanji got into the sea and saved him. When Luffy got out of the water, he said Nami couldn't betray him, but she had already done so. On the other hand, Garp was telling everyone that they wouldn't let this matter quickly go. Garp decided to capture them and threw them in the cages. Kobe was taken aback because he was not expecting this. Now, the realization door was opening for him. In the Beirat Hotel, Zeph humiliates Sanji for cleaning the mess in the hotel. He was asking him to move on because he should set on a journey and find out All Blue. All Blue was dream of Zeph, but he couldn't accomplish, so he believed Sajin would figure it out. But Sajin didn't want to leave him alone, but Zeph compelled him to do so. He rejected him and moved forward to join Luffy's crew. Moreover, Luffy was seated with Roronoa and was sad because their crew had scattered. Luffy was feeling lonely because he hadn't been expecting from him. Luffy pleaded with him to return in his sense because he needed him a lot. At the same time, Roronoa awoke and Luffy was about to die with happiness. Just then, Roronoa promised to stay with him until he died, and Luffy decided to find Nami. After grabbing the food and other items, they set on their journey. Also, Sanji arrived to join them, and Luffy welcomed him into the crew because Sanji was the best cook. With tearful eyes, both said goodbye to each other. Here, Luffy announced that someone knew where she could be, and this person was no other than Buggy, whom Luffy had kidnapped.